Harry, we've got like 70 people who are coming on this. We've got probably thousands on Facebook.
So we are broadcasting on Zoom, so now people can join in, and let me do Facebook here. Go live.
Harry's looking a little bit different than Harold Cooper these days.
Yeah, well, it's a different time we're in.
And we are live on Facebook. So there we go. Yay.
So Mr. Harry Lennix, hello, happy Wednesday.
Great to be with you all, Team Conrad. I'm excited about this. Very cool.
Awesome to have you. We're excited to have you. So how's New York treating you? Well, yeah, how's New York?
Well, you know, all the indications are that things are going in the right direction. We're still effectively under a quarantine. I think we're still the hot spot. I don't know what the other cities are doing, but you know, the governor says that things are looking like we're over the tough part. Of course, everybody's now considering reopening and what that might look like. So, you know, who knows? But New York, it's hard to tell one day between, you know, the difference between one day and another. But I'm getting things done, and so we're healthy and safe, and those things are vital. So, wishing the same for everybody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, just to kind of give everyone a welcome and who everybody is, for those of you who don't know, but I'm sure all of you recognize this handsome face over here, Harry Lennix. You probably know him from the Blacklist, but now you get to know him from Conrad as Don Brewer. I am the co-creator of the show, and I play Kate Conrad.
And I am Kelly Tidmore. I am co-director and producer. And I'm just happy to be here. And it's so great to see Harry's face again.
Great to see you, Kelly. And Jennifer. Thanks. And Ryan.
I am Ryan, co-creator and director of photography, executive producer, and a producer, and then so many other hats that we won't mention on this Zoom. But they're definitely there. But glad to have Harry back. And he's always a pleasure to talk with. And I think it would be a great session. So,
and Harry, you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are?
Yeah, well, I am Harry Lennix, a native Chicagoan. Been living in New York for the past 7 years, working on the Blacklist. Lived here for many years ago as well. Sometimes live in Los Angeles, but actor, director of theater, mostly producer, writer, and all around jack of all trades of the entertainment industry.
It's a fun industry to be a part of, and there's so many things you can do. And with the craziness of the world right now, I hope everybody is really still able to hone in on their craft and really focus on what they're passionate about. I know we're not able to be on set, but you know, I hope everyone's creative juices are running. I know mine is, and our team is very busy working on stuff. So it's definitely been exciting. Harry, a lot of people have been kind of wondering what you've been up to, you know, because everyone knows that when you were filming the Blacklist, because of everything happening, things were shut down, and we've had people wondering, what's Harry up to?
Yeah, well, I can let people know that, you know, I'm like everybody else trying to figure out what this new routine is going to be. So just wondering if we'll get started with the Blacklist, although I don't do that 24 hours a day, not wondering. I'm writing a script, writing a musical, writing the book to it. I'll have to go and find somebody to do some lyrics and some music for me. I've got a lot of options. So I'm happy about that. But I'm about 2/3 of the way through the first act of 3 acts. That was the old way that things were done in the old school. They would do 3 acts of a musical. But the plays, you know, back in the old days didn't even start until 9 o'clock in New York City. That was curtain time in those old days. So people wouldn't get out until midnight in many cases of the old theater. But these things have changed. Now you got the 2 acts. So anyway, I'm writing that, pitching shows like you guys are trying to find a home for Conrad. I'm trying to find a couple of homes, or one home for a couple of projects. So I've commissioned a couple of scripts that are in the kind of space that I refer to as Black faith entertainment. That is creating content for a demographic of people
Mm-hmm.
who are overrepresented in the population, but underrepresented in terms of finding themselves in the media. There's no equivalent to, for example, Roma Downey and Mark Burnett. There's not a whole lot of people that are Black that are creating that content for the faithful, even though Black people as a demographic are the most spiritual people in the United States of America, some 93%. So trying to carve out this space and what I think is a non-disruptive field. I think it's going to be beneficial to everybody. Everybody will enjoy it. People enjoy Black culture, which is almost the same thing as Black faith anyway. When you listen to popular music, you're listening to Black church music and the blues. And of course, the culture of it is replete. There's really no way to avoid it. And so I'm just trying to carve it out and to make people know where they can go to get quality entertainment in this field, just as you are. So that requires a lot of thought, a lot of partners, a lot of people who are thinking in the same way. It's a much bigger reach than just one project. You know about my movie Revival, still trying to get that out there. But Revival
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah. So Revival is the key to a door, to a lock in a door. And beyond that door is untold treasure. So I'm still trying to get the key to the lock to work.
Makes sense.
Sounds like Kate Conrad.
That's right. Sounds like Kate Conrad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Quick question. I have two questions for you, and I've had a couple people ask this. What is your favorite Shakespeare play?
Well, as an actor, it would probably be different than, say, as a director or producer of entertainment. I think my favorite play, and I don't think it's the best of his plays, but it's Julius Caesar. It's my favorite one. I think it's so easy to understand. It's relevant to any age, to any country. It's got a lot of really great characters in it, like Julius Caesar himself, Brutus and Antony and Cassius, Portia and Calpurnia. These are all great characters, but I think the best is greatest play as a kind of accomplishment is probably, I'm going to say, King Lear.
Really?
Yeah. That's my. Well, for many reasons, it's an iconic figure. Of course, it's considered one of the four great tragedies. Everybody knows it's a operatic-sized lead part, and the parts like Cordelia and Regan and Goneril, all of those are Kent. All of these are really iconic parts. So I think it's got the benefit of being very simple to understand and to place it in any number of locations and time periods and still have it be recognizable. But I think that it also has so that it's got that primal kind of quality to it, but it's also philosophically, it's very, very rich. Who is the fool, for example? Is that an aspect of Lear himself? What happens to the fool? These kinds of puzzles, the three daughters that he has, what they represent about his own psyche, all of these things I think are easily adaptable.
Absolutely. No, that's great.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely dimensional.
Yeah, building characters and having so much depth to them is something that's super important in anything, plays, movies, film. Otherwise, how do you connect? And I know that another way that you connect is also through the piano. Have you had a chance to play the piano at all?
Well, I try to play every day now that I've got the time. Can't avoid playing it without guilt. I'm looking at it right now, so it's in the room where I would do most of my work from. There's a piano, so I
Harry,
try to get in a half an hour a day.
I have some great footage of you playing the piano and singing. I mean, that was such a great, moment, because you have a great voice as well.
Oh, thank you.
You have so many talents. I'm like, where does this guy end,
So to share with you guys,
enjoyable.
On set, and even when we were filming, when we were done, I know when we were filming in the bar scene, which we'll also be showing audiences here shortly, at Sharon and Jay's, we had a little after party, and we were at the pool, and there was caterers, and it was a lot of fun, and all of a sudden you hear this beautiful piano playing, and I'm like, oh, I like the music here. Sharon's like, that's not me, that's Harry. I'm like, wait, what? we all run into hip piano and Harry's just, you know, all this beautiful music. You're so talented. And I just wanted to like, wait, how do you do that?
Well,
It's awesome.
I didn't have any kind of natural ability, and I have to tell you, and Kelly, as much as I am flattered to hear that you think I have a nice voice, there's no Broadway director that agrees with you.
Well, we got a great show that night, and despite everything, I think, you know, you had just come from the pool or whatever, so you were in
Right.
shorts, and I mean, just it was just a nice casual moment. But I was stunned because I had no idea that you had that plethora of additional talents that you have. So it was really nice, and it, you know, involving the entire, you know, some cast and crew, and everybody kind of started to sing, and it was just a really nice time. But I'm impressed. So maybe you need to get in front of some other people.
The right people.
Right,
It's
the right people. It's all about getting in front of the right people, right?
It always is. You know, it's interesting. You think about these great musicals that they've made movies out of, even when they could have faked somebody's voice. But Rex Harrison doesn't really sing, and My Fair Lady or anything. A lot of those actors were doing what they call Sprechstimme. They were speaking their song. Even people like even though the great Richard Harris could sing, he didn't always really sing when he was doing, for example, what was that thing about King Arthur and the Knights of the musical? It's a great musical. Not only he, you know, but a lot of those actors would use their rhythm, their kind of natural music, even though they didn't have trained operatic voices or anything like that. So it was, it's fun. It's fun. I like playing, though, a lot more than singing.
You're good at it. So
Thank you.
So what, I know I won't, let's see. We have some questions coming in.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who are so excited that you're here, Harry. And we've got your Blacklist fans, we've got your Conrad fans, we've got all your fans who are wanting to know so many different things. But yeah, I mean, why don't you share a little bit about your experience, you know, even being on our show on Conrad and being a part of our team, and, you know, kind of what it's been like for you.
Well, I don't, if I thought about it, it would be hard for me to even know how many days I've worked as a total. I know I came in one winter time, maybe that was 2 years ago. Was it a year ago? I can't remember. I came last year. And then a day in the summer after that, we did some other kind of community-based sort of social progress things, which is also important, given the topic of Conrad. So, you know, I think the thing I love about it is that the team there is Chicago-based. They have the Chicago spirit of no matter how tough things get, you know, seeing it through, finishing when everybody else would be giving up, since it's not always as glamorous as it appears, but making a way out of no way, finding the way to finish it with the budget, with the constraints, with locations, all of these things, equipment. You guys have been in New York, you've come to, you know, you've been around a lot of different places getting this thing to finish. And so that fits right in with the type of professionalism, dedication, passion that I really respect. And so combine that with a very interesting story and a great bunch of talent, including you. Jennifer is an actress, Kelly, of course, behind the camera, Ryan behind the camera, adding things sometimes as we go. It's like, you know, enfolding things as the process is happening. That's really the best part of what we do, is not having it all figured out when you're doing it, but figuring out, just like you would in real life, how do we get from point A to point B? How does the character do that? How do the execution people do that? And so that's a lot of fun. And of course, one of the great thrills of my life is being in something with the great Eric Roberts. You know, he's a tremendous actor, and as are all of the actors, but he's, of course, an icon in the industry. I used to call myself the hardest working man in show business, but I pale in comparison to Eric Roberts. He's always doing something. And I think we are very fortunate to have him join this team, and he brings a lot, as does everybody. You know, everybody's giving their all. So that's what it's been like. It's been a labor of love, and that's the best kind of labor.
Well, and
No,
you're
I
probably
think-
asked. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna give some feedback. I think Conrad has been a great testament, and you were kind of the tip of the iceberg for that, for what is possible. Not gonna lie, when Jen said that she was messaging with you back when we had our first premiere, I'm like, well, okay, she does a lot of this, so kind of whatever. And then we had this phone call scheduled, so I'm like, okay, so Harry Lennix, the guy from the Blacklist, yeah, we'll see. Because I'm definitely one of those, when the money is in the bank, okay, now you have the money. So you make that voice come on the phone, then I might believe it. And
Right.
Sure enough, it did. And so it was not just you, it was then Hisham and then Eric Roberts. And so Conrad, both the story and the making of the project are kind of a testament to, you don't always have to assume that the answer is no. Sometimes things are possible, maybe not in the most conventional manner that you're seeing in the media broadcast, because they're broadcasting what's the most, popular of what you hear your friends doing. But there's, if there's a will, there's a way, and you sometimes have to change your mindset. But I remember your onboarding was kind of the tip of the iceberg for the new direction that Conrad was going to be taking in this reloaded version. And so it's kind of if we were to all have like a special, hat that we would wear, I guess your hat would be like the, I guess the one word I would think would be hope. That there is definitely hope for maybe what all filmmakers feel is a grim future for your project. We none of us want to see it premiere in the theater ever. I never do. I always want to just leave. I don't want to hear what you guys think, but it definitely was. It was refreshing to see that there was outside interest, and I remember going to see actually your project Revival, and I loved the whole thing, especially the take on the musical part of it. I had gone to church, seen many musicals like that before, but that was definitely a different take of it, and I loved it. So kudos for you and doing other stuff outside of just acting. So
I guess,
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry. No, I was going to say that, a lot of people, how do you decipher what you're going to work on? I mean, I'm sure, Harry, you get messages all the time and people reaching out to you. How do you determine, what kind of projects you want to get on board with? What drew you to Conrad?
Well, you'd be surprised that there's a lot of people out there with intention and desire, but getting it to the point where we're actually shooting footage and with a crew around that can actually capture it in any kind of decent way is rare. That's a very small percentage of people. And so you were ready to go, and I was intrigued by the story, and I knew it was inspired in some ways by the Blacklist, that kind of tone that we were able to capture there. So I felt a natural sort of affinity for it, and just the go-get-itness of you all, the determination, as I said before. So to be honest, I try to do as much, or I would do as much as possible. The Blacklist schedule up until now has been such that it doesn't allow a whole lot of latitude. But from time to time, they've been willing to sort of, let me go outside of the normal Blacklist schedule. I did, of course, Batman versus Superman while I was shooting the Blacklist, and a couple of other things. I do a show called Billions. I do independent projects that friends of mine are involved in, if I can, if it's in such a way where the schedule doesn't conflict. We shoot in New York, so sometimes logistically it's just not possible, or they don't even know my schedule on the Blacklist, and so they can't allow that sort of grace period for me. They don't know when I'm going to be used and not. So those times I have to say no. But I've been fortunate in that people want to work with me, and when that's the case, and they're doing something that's good, even if it's not what I would do or have them do, you know, I'm happy to take a part in it. That's what it's all about. Michael Jordan, when he played basketball, he had this clause in his contract called the love of the game clause. And the Chicago Bulls management did not want him playing pickup games in a park because he could get hurt. When he was in his second year, he got injured in his second year, and they didn't want him playing there. It's all, everybody has it fresh in their minds now because there's this documentary on ESPN about him. But I remember that love of the game clause, and it just said he loved basketball so much that he should not be constricted to just play for the Chicago Bulls. He wanted to play basketball because he loved basketball. His love for basketball, even though he loved the Bulls, his love for basketball was greater than the Bulls. And I feel that way about art and acting and creation. You know, I love my job on the Blacklist. I love my job on the other shows and in the theater and all of those things. But I've always thought that more of it gives you more experience, and the more experience makes you better. And so I'm trying to get better all the time, and working with people who are also trying to get better and to continue to create in an environment is important for me as much as it might be useful to them.
If I could piggyback on your schedule with the Blacklist, there was a little story. So when we had you on set that first weekend, we were told that we had you until Sunday night and that you had to be back on set with the Blacklist at 5 or 5:30 a.m. that Monday morning. And we're all going, where is he? I mean, we were making sure that what exit is he at? He's making it to the airport. We don't want Conrad to be responsible for messing up the Blacklist, you know?
Right.
So it was just really funny. And when you first showed up on set, we're like, oh, and then I could hear people in the background going, he's coming, you know? So it was just fun. But just so you know, we were all like, okay, he just left. I think he went to the restroom. Anybody got eyes on Harry Lennix?
I remember when.
No, I think you left within like 5 minutes to spare, and it's kind of that stuff that's fun. Harry, I'm sure it's hard to pick a favorite, but what would be your favorite part just of the project that you experienced if you could pick one time?
Favorite part of the Conrad experience?
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, one of them was being at the L'Accuse and having a great shoot and then a great party afterward. Like that was just, it was just great. You know, the kind of family-like atmosphere that was created, everybody opening up their hearts. You guys were getting all kinds of support that was coming in that you didn't even expect from, like, you know, fundraising things that you were doing. And I remember that, you know, I remember being in that pool and just, you know, that's one of the best things about being in this business is a rap party. And even if it's not a rap party, if it's just a party, it's like, that was a kind of perfect example of it. But I also remember somebody's apartment, the first weekend I shot, we were down in the garage, of course, and then somebody bought me an Italian beef from Portillo's.
We made sure we found out what you like.
Of course. And we were like, make sure it's hot.
It was great.
Yeah.
We had a runner, and she was like, you know, we were like, you know, we have all of these people who are so actively involved, which we have an amazing crew. And I remember when, you know, they were like, do we have eyes on Harry? Well, he's on O'Hare. He's on 90 right now. Limo's got him on 90. He's 17 minutes out. Someone's got to go to Portillo's.
You're under a microscope, dude. You were under a microscope. We wanted to see every single footstep you were taking.
We're like, make sure the limo driver does not talk too much.
Oh, yes.
Unless
it was just ironic.
But no. So do you think, and this is a question we also got, but with COVID and everything, do you think that Chicago and Atlanta is going to be kind of a new place for filming? Like maybe, you know, kind of foreseeing it becoming as dominant as New York or Atlanta? And why do you feel that way in terms of filming?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, nobody knows anything at this particular point. But I do think that there's a good possibility that the places that aren't as built up infrastructure-wise will be the new centers, you know, places that have a lot of space. New York has a great density of population. It makes it kind of tough to keep social distancing in some ways. But nobody really knows what this is going to look like. I think the future is wide open, and it'll come down to a technician, an engineer, somebody that can figure out a way to create backgrounds. I'm looking at Ryan's Conrad background there. I think that the next sort of leap forward, the sort of magic bullet, as it were, of production going forward will be shooting people in separate locations where they can maintain their distance in such a way that the environment that is created is seamless and looks real, and or at least suitable for whatever environment. You know, a lot of this stuff now isn't quote unquote real or the real world. It's a lot of CGI and that stuff, but improving on that is going to be huge. I think, you know, I'm in the midst of building a performance arts center. I was in the midst of it before this happened. But thinking about when they open up the world again, when they open up Broadway again, are people going to go and sit in a 1,000-seat theater, you know, centimeters apart, you know, from another person? I don't think so. I don't know. It's going to take a while for that unless a vaccine is created. And even then, psychologically, getting people to that next thing. So I think whoever is building things now can be on the cutting edge of rethinking it and being innovative and figuring out a way that even if it's just psychological, creating a sense of distance or separation or safety will be very important. You know, they have those barriers. I know, like when you're going overseas on a flight, certainly when you're traveling in a train car or what have you, but even on a flight, they have these partitions that you can put up. And I think that that the new seating might look like that. The new acting, I don't know. I think there might be, they'll probably invent some sort of material for clothing, wardrobe, these kinds of things that the crew will be wearing, protective gear, masks, these sorts of things. But I think that they'll find a way to sanitize or at least mitigate any kind of contamination, cross-contamination between people. So it's, nobody knows for sure, but Chicago's already doing well relative to many cities in terms of its production. I know a couple things have either shut down or are shutting down after this season, but Chicago will continue to do well. It's got too big of a talent pool and too great of a skyline and central location to all of the rest of the country. It's easy to get to. It's relatively inexpensive. The people work their asses off. So I think that it won't really have to worry if there is a future at all, and I think there will be. I think Chicago will be a very big part of that future.
Wow. No, that's a good perspective.
I think too, do you think maybe, I mean, despite how crazy this has been and horrific, it's also given people the opportunity to kind of step back and do some of the things that they haven't had time to do, like write, really reflect on life and see what's important, you know, family, being with friends, connecting, you know, and because we're always so caught up in the rat race, you know, and working, that I think this is we're gonna come out better people from it, you know. But anyway, I think that's I guess if there is a good side to this, I think, you know, that would definitely be it, is understanding what's important to you, you know.
Right. Yeah. I know that there'll be a good part to it. It's built in that in the grips of what appears to be the very worst thing that could happen, something about the human spirit is revealed. Even things that are not so obvious as that. It's you know, I get philosophical sort of in times like this. And I go back to my favorite philosopher, theologian, guy by the name of Thomas Aquinas, who said that, you know, one of the ways that you can prove the existence of God, and God to him really is the very essence of existence. God is existence in itself. But he said that that question had always, why do bad things happen to good people? Why does evil exist in a world that was created by an all good, God. And the answer that he came up with is that, and I believe this, that only God can redeem certain situations. And without that relative thing to compare, how could we know the very goodness that is within us, within the universe, within the world, within God, therefore, without having modes of existence in those things? So I believe that it's, that insofar as we've already seen it, you know, the people who are risking their lives every day, going out there, taking care of each other, in spite of all of this, that the society has not collapsed. Americans have shown a tremendous amount of resiliency in the face of this invisible enemy that has gone on longer than anybody would have it go on. But here we are, here we're standing, and I think we'll continue to do that.
I agree.
100%. I mean, I would say, I mean, this has definitely been something that has been trying for so many people. And, you know, I think that, you know, looking back on this, the appreciation of the things that we, you know, didn't realize were such gifts is going to be a huge, huge awakening. And I think, you know, the value of life and appreciating the things that we have and other people, and the respect and the boundaries and the love that we have. You know, because not seeing people live is so hard, but, you know, I'm thankful for Zoom, that we can have the opportunity to connect. I actually feel like I've connected with people more through this than I have when I'm in person. Because when I'm in person, let's be honest, we're on our phones or we're, you know, thinking about the next thing. And, you know, this really gives us a time to appreciate those in front of us. And, you know, having the time of those who are a part of this and all the people who have joined on is an honor. And I'm very thankful. So,
yep.
You know, and prayers to those who are having a hard time, because it's definitely not easy.
Right.
But kind of segueing into Don.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna.
No, we have so many questions. We have questions popping up here. And so we're trying to get to your fans as well, but go ahead, Jen.
Well, I was gonna say we are gonna ask those Blacklist questions, Blacklist fans. I have one who keeps asking what it's like to work with the great James Spader, and I just need to ask you that.
Well, you know, what I always compare it as it's sort of like playing baseball with Joe DiMaggio, or playing basketball with Magic Johnson. Like he's a guy that, you know, if you're on that team, you got a really good chance of having a very good show. He's proven quantity. He's been doing this a long time. I don't know how many Emmy awards he's got, and, you know, all kinds of other nominations, Broadway act. You know, he's a iconic talent, and a class act, top professional, shows up prepared, works harder than most people I've ever worked with, and we're in a hard-working business. Let's face it. But he's prepared. He doesn't let his previous accomplishments stand in the way of his being ready for his work every day. He's cordial. He is consummate professional. So it's great. I don't work with him every day. You know, I might have 1 or 2 scenes with him per episode. But I must tell you, I look forward to those scenes with him, because I know that I've got to be at the top of my game. I got to be ready, because he's going to be ready. So that's what it's like. It's, you know, the writing, when he's involved in the scene, he's going to check to make sure that all of it, you know, is flowing. He's got a tremendous retention, a great eye for detail and specifics, almost like, you know, a gift that he could remember and connect all of these dots and sort of recall something that might have happened 2 episodes ago, and it'll just be floating out there, and then you'll realize, oh, wait a minute, he's right. That doesn't, you know, connect with what we already established. So it's great. I enjoy working with him. I hope I get to do it for a lot longer.
Nice.
Fantastic. So if you had a choice to work with someone that you haven't quite worked with yet, who would that be? That's a question from Bradford.
Well, I would really like to work with Robert De Niro. Never had a chance to work with him. I'd like to work with him. You know, He's a giant in the field. I had a couple of moments with Al Pacino doing some readings of plays. So I want to, so De Niro's left. I'd like to work with Liam Neeson. He's a guy whose career I really like. Got a great career, can do sort of the classic stuff, can do the action stuff. Makes middle age look really good. So I like that. I've already worked with Amy Adams, but I think she's tremendous. I'd like to work with Kate Blanchett. I think that
she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's great.
And you got to work with Eric Roberts.
And I got to work with Eric Roberts.
So tell us a little bit about Mr. Don Brewer as much as you can, because I know there's some secrets about him. But who is Don in relation to Eric Roberts, to Michael Conrad?
Yeah, I mean it's a good question. I don't think that the pilot, it doesn't reveal all of that. I only really have to go on what you've shared with me, you and Ryan and Kelly. But I think that, while it might be easy to sort of look skeptically at Don Brewer as a kind of bad guy, at least dressed in bad guy clothing, I think that there's something like what I like about him is sort of, he's the antithesis of Cooper. Cooper's kind of on the vest, on the cuff. You kind of know what's motivating him. Whereas Red is a person who you might consider a bad guy who does good things, or a good guy who does bad things. I think that that Don Brewer is that, and being the brother of a guy who was in law enforcement for 30 years, the nuances, complications of being in law enforcement, having to protect yourself and others in a very dangerous profession, having to work to some extent on both sides of the law, just to make sure that the world stays safe, knowing that those things knowing that crime will never be eliminated, but that you have to deal with it and find ways to do it without compromising yourself. I think he's a complicated guy, and I think that he, to any one person within the course of a Conrad episode or the arc of the story as a whole, he might seem one way. I think he's very easily another way. And I think that guys like him, whatever we might judge on him, if he went before a Senate panel or a police board review, they might have one thing to think about because that's their job, and internal affairs and all of that other stuff. But in the reality of the world, you need people who can play a little dirty when they have to. And I think that that's Don Brewer. I also think that most of all, he thinks that he's doing what's right.
How do you prep for a character? Like, okay, so you came on set. I mean, you had seen the script, but I mean, having so many projects that you're working on at once, and playing different characters, how do you prepare to get it? Like, what advice can you give someone who is, acting and really pursuing that career when they have different roles? What do you do specifically to prep for your different characters when you're filming Billions, Blacklist, Conrad? How do you switch gears like that?
Well, it's, the most important thing is to know that there are different methods of working, and the ethos of every show is going to be different. On some shows, it's good to come in and be off book and be word perfect. In some, there's a little bit more latitude. You're going to be creating a lot of the dialogue on the set, on the day, at the moment. That's what it's like to work with Spike Lee, for example, is that the dialogue is really just a blueprint. But in TV, the dialogue is the Bible, and it's like scripture, and they want it to be exactly what they wrote a lot. So those are two different methods. But I think I get most of my information from reading the script, and then asking questions, determining, at the time, or a little bit, however much time you have to do it. But who knows the character the best? Well, it's probably going to be the writer. The director will have had to think about the piece as a whole. So for me, I try, when I'm acting, to play my part within the whole. I don't presume to know or to think that I know what the end result is going to be. So being in a position where what do you need this character to be? If I know that, then I can figure out as an actor. My job is to figure out how to get you what you want or need. And sometimes the script will determine that, although even that is up to interpretation frequently. There are some actors who are very difficult, but who you're glad that they're difficult because they make the project better. I consider myself to be an actor who is not difficult or demanding, but inquisitive. And so I try to, my job is to be a provider of a service. I'm a gun for hire, a kind of soldier of fortune in my view, whereas I'm not, whatever side you might be on in the big battle, I'm going to be on the side of the soldier, whoever's paying my wage, feeding us lunch, getting the job done. That's whose side I'm on. And my loyalty is to the craft itself and not to any particular production or movement or any of those things.
I guess going with that, what draws you to other projects? Like, what's the most important thing that draws you to them?
Well, a good story, a good character, a good paycheck from time to time, even if it's not those other things. There could be many motivations, but for me, as long as it's something that is not humiliating and bringing down, kicking a horse that's already down or adding fuel to a fire that's raging and is not helping. But those are easily determinable. So as I say, I don't really have an agenda as an actor or an artist other than to do good work, and work that to me seems that it is within the realm of truth or possibility or even aspirational. If it's something I would like to see happen or something that I know has happened, but people don't know enough about it, or that I can in some way shed some light on it, some perspective on it. That's really all that's required.
Well, we want to show people who.
The same. Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
This is how we've been on set. She's always in my head. Uh-oh, Kelly's frozen.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so
There we go.
Kelly's down in the woods. I was saying
it's
you're in my head.
So funny, but now, am I good? Am I good?
You're good.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, good. I just wanted to say that it was a major, it was such an honor to work with you. And I think that you are one of the most
humble, genuine. Humble and genuine. Does anyone else see that?
I do, yeah.
Intelligent, genuine, and soul about you, So it's just, it was just such one of my best experiences. And my favorite scene is in the bar. There's so much going on, and we had the platform for creativity, and you just jumped right in with us. And we looked to you for some things, some advice on some things in the scene.
So I know what you're trying to say, Kelly. Basically,
really compliment. Yeah, go ahead.
Harry came on as an actor, and he was able to provide so much information and provide us some insight and really bring some things to light to us. That you're the reason that motivated me to kind of revamp the show. Your intelligence and your knowledge and just the things that you know and do. And you were trying to say how humble he is. I second that. Harry, you are one of the most humble, genuine individuals I have ever worked with. And I am honored that I got a chance to work with you. And your talent is bar none. And I guess, bringing you on as an executive producer and the value add that you brought to the team was incredible. And we flew out to New York. We made it happen. He had some ideas and we made it happen, and it worked great. And we're very proud.
And we got to meet his, some great friends. Tell John Evans I said hello. I love his music.
Yes, hi, John.
Yeah, the great Johnny Swerve. Yeah, absolutely.
I love him. So are we going to show this?
We are.
We
need some time to show that, so let's get on with it.
All right.
Give me a moment here.
Great.
Share my thing.
So everyone, you can meet Don Brewer. Here he comes.
That's right.
Oh, come on.
There Here it is.
After you.
Thank you.
Wow. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time.
Me too.
You know, it's funny. I would have thought you would never become a cop with the rep your dad had.
What rep is that?
Okay, take a look around here at all these people. You think any one of them knows the real secrets the other has? What they do with their shadow time?
We all wear masks, LD.
But just because someone is kind-hearted, it doesn't mean that they're not capable of violence. My advice, don't trust the nice ones.
Okay, so what about you?
What about me?
I mean, you seem nice and charming even. Does that mean I shouldn't trust you?
I guess there's an exception to every rule.
Right.
So, just a little glimpse.
Bam.
It's nice. That's it's looking great. I don't think I've seen that. I don't think.
You saw the
Yeah.
show at the screener.
In the screening.
It doesn't. I mean, for whatever reason, it seems like different. I mean, it sounds like the music changed, or so. I don't know. It seems different somehow.
Don't tell me you were nervous.
I was probably drunk. They were giving me free
It was a
beers at
funny
that
thing.
wonderful theater. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there's some truth. There was a little bit of an adjustment that was made. But
Okay.
that means you have a keen eye because you picked up on the small adjustments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was. And we wanted to add a little bit more of a lightheartedness, and we used a couple of different takes when we decided to change it for the pitch that we are submitting.
Yeah.
Yes. We showed the pilot to our cast and crew and some industry back in February prior to COVID. We had a big red carpet, had some fun tchotchkes. And since then, we were given some thoughts to maybe adjust a little bit of the responses. So we used some different takes, things like that. But yes, see the executive producer in you.
Yep. That's the way it's done.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so we wanted to share that with everybody. But yeah, and I know we have 10 minutes left. And is there anything that you want to share in terms of what I know for one thing, a lot of people have asked, how they can, a lot of people have asked how they can learn more about you and things like that. And a lot of people are asking stuff going back to Broadway experience, things with Revival. I do want to give you a chance to share a little bit about that. With Revival, how can people see that?
Well, we're on multiple platforms, YouTube, Amazon, iTunes, Walmart, .com, Fandango, a number of platforms. So if you go to Revival, the movie, and particularly if you put the exclamation point behind Revival, you should be able to find us pretty easily. You could also go to EasterSunday2020.com or revivalthemovie.com. So we have a pretty big footprint. If anybody has any trouble, we'll be updating things because we're actually moving toward a Pentecost Sunday release. So it's probably now www.pentecostsunday2020.org, and you will be able to get the movie. And as I said, on other platforms as well. So it's widely available digitally, and so I'm happy about that. Somebody I saw up here asked about how many episodes of the Blacklist. Well, there's a total of 19 this year. Episode 19, half of it will be in animation because we were only able to shoot 4 days out of the 8 or 9 days that we normally use to shoot it. So the writers came up with this novel idea. We have no idea what that's going to look like. We've been working on it, or they've been working on it really. So I'm not going to be animated, but everybody else, I guess, will, because I shot all of my stuff before the shutdown.
Wow.
So that's interesting. And then, as I said, I'm writing, myself right now, a script. I'm not going to say anything about it really because I have a feeling I'll jinx it if I don't. If I start talking about it before it's done. So I'm going to finish it. But it's a musical. And I'm actually going with Kelly's being very impressed with whatever I know about music and the rest of you. So I'm looking forward to that. But again, I'm staying away from the music part of just writing the book. And this is very interesting, though. You have to know musicals. You have to know how musicals work in order even to write the script. You know, sometimes people think, well, you just do a great scene and plug in some song that seems mildly appropriate to the story. But it doesn't work that way in musicals, and well-done musicals at least. It has to advance the narrative. So the story is either revealing something about the character that you wouldn't otherwise know through the dialogue, or is advancing the narrative while revealing those things, in addition to being a catchy tune that people might want to hear again sometimes. It sounds good, or it sounds at least intriguing. So the way that music functions within a story is very interesting. The last thing I saw before the Broadway shutdown was a girl from the North Country, which uses Bob Dylan's music and places it within a narrative. Of course, my friend Julie Taymor did a movie where she uses the Beatles music in her movie Across the Universe. So she really constructed a story that would make those things happen that I just was talking about within the course of already existing music, as they did in The Girl from the North Country. So I'm doing a little bit of that on this story that I'm telling now, using some found music, already existing music, and then creating some new stuff.
Yeah, I think, and I concur with that. Especially as a writer, on a writer perspective about moving the story forward. Part of the conflict that was for me is I had so many ideas and so many things I wanted to put on the paper. But the biggest thing is, why do we have this scene? How is it moving the story forward? And what is it doing to build towards a conflict? And where and where is the conflict in the scene? And it's definitely real. It's definitely a struggle. And so it's hard. I think musical theater is very much like any type of script writing in a lot of ways. Obviously there's some differences, but I think, for writers out there, it's real easy to put everything on paper, but I also think you have to be almost as if an actor to really understand writing, because it's communication and it's getting into a character and really understanding what they're thinking, feeling, and building upon those layers. Because it's really easy to write a 2D character, but no one cares about a 2D character, right? Like they want the character with the battles and, the inner feelings, and they want to see that. And so, giving something for the actor to work through and to build upon is so important.
Yeah, I think of it almost like being an engineer in many ways. How do you increase the flow, the efficiency, with the least amount of sort of interference and or noise, in such a way that you can allow for a smooth and efficient function and still do the task that's at hand. A computer program in some way. That it has to be user-friendly. It also has to carry out very complex computational things in order for it to appear to be a natural and organic thing. So it's almost, I consider it almost like carving a sculpture, laying railroad track and cutting down the forest that it has to go through. So it's a lot of engineering and going back and fixing things, but that'll have a trigger effect on many things down the line. So you can't just take out this one little word or one little scene or character adjustment without it impacting, in a domino effect kind of way, a lot of things.
Do you learn a lot from your characters when you play a certain character? Like, is there ever anything that you can take from that character?
Well, it depends, right? So when I played Adam Clayton Powell, I didn't know much about him and the amazing things that he did. Did a movie that was called Keep the Faith Baby for Showtime. So I guess getting on to 20 years ago now. But that said, I didn't know a lot about the character. But man, I found out a great deal. And not just about what he had accomplished, but the way he thought, how he interacted, his political skill, his ability to get accomplished what everybody was trying to prevent him from in many cases. If I play a doctor, of course, I'm going to learn something. If I play a lawyer, there are things that you can learn. But in most cases, what I've learned as I've gotten older and more mature as an actor is how to call upon those things that I already know, experiences that I've already had, so that I don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. I could put those energies into other things, and I can make those things that I know about me adapt to the character that I have to play, rather than always having to invent. I think that's really a young actor's obsession, is trying to be different from role to role to role. Whereas if you think about it in many ways, you know, are you going to look at an actor's career as a bunch of small little pieces that they've played over the course of their time, and to see how many different flavors they put into their, how many different colors of crayon they have in their crayon box? But if you are a skilled enough actor, you can take the 8 crayon box and create whatever color you want. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so that's my my philosophy about it now, is that you can take a few things, because in reality, talking to the actors out there, in reality, any actor, male, female, young, old, American, English, Russian, there's really only 2 or 3 characters, 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 styles or modes that they're going to really master. You can't master 8 or 10, can't be great at comedy and drama or romance. And you can, I guess, but you'd be insane. But the real thing is to be able to figure out what those things are that you do well, to continue to challenge yourself on that and to master those things, rather than to be a jack of all trades and master none of those things. So, for example, there's a great quote that I use when I'm playing piano, which is, maybe it was Bill Evans that said it, the great jazz piano player said, "It is better to practice 1 song for 12 hours than to practice 12 songs in 1 hour."
Huh. It's interesting.
Yeah.
That makes you think. No, it's really interesting. Have you
I love it. We should have ended with you playing the piano, Harry.
Next
You
time.
want to play?
I
Yeah.
know, right? I didn't even think about it. We should have had you do
There's
that.
a whole setup that I have to figure, you know, because it's got
Of
the mic
course, of course. We wouldn't want you to mess you up there. Go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just gonna say, and just like, you know, before we wrap up, is there any life-changing or game-changing role in your life that you want to share with everyone? It's from Andrea.
No.
Andrea has asked that.
Yeah, I really want to play, and there's a number of them, really. I've always wanted to do Lear at some point. I don't want to do it now. I want to play Duke Ellington and play the music, actually, to really play the music as a piano player. I'd love to do some more comedy. Love to do a couple of, at least one romantic lead in a movie. Or even a play, for that matter. I guess I played, had romances and movies and things, but in terms of just doing like a strict romance, that would be really nice before I get to the point where people don't want to see it because I'm too old or something. So, I think that those things are coming. I'm looking forward to those possibilities, and what I really look forward to now is being able to create them from the ground up myself. I've now done 3 feature films that I've produced, financed, wrote one of them. So it's been very interesting being a part of the solution rather than waiting for somebody to give me an opportunity, taking this brave new age that we're in, where the cost of production is really a fraction of what it was 20 years ago. These platforms of distribution, getting it out there so that people can see it, is greater now than it's ever been. And, to that end, I think Conrad and its team is exactly on the right track and moving in the parallel universe.
Thank you. And in that last statement, what do you I guess the biggest question is, what do you think needs to happen now for Conrad to finally be picked up for the networks? As a actor out there who's worked with big studios, and what are your thoughts? I mean, you've seen the show. Besides the scene that had a few tweaks, you've seen the show. The production value.
Yep.
And you've seen some of our Bible and our press kits. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I would say that the real thing is to just stay in the game and to persevere. As somebody who I spent every dime and then some on my productions, and never really found, some major studio that was willing to pick it up, but trying to get it out there and rethinking this new world that we're in. I don't have any answers for it. I don't know that there are any ready-made answers, except for to keep yourself going until the right entity, the right person, the right company comes along and they recognize it. And in lieu of that, keep trying to create that company for yourself. I think that what's one of the things that's going to happen is nobody knows what the movie theater is going to look like. The big studios are going to be struggling to survive like everybody else, because how are people going to get what they are creating? And I think there's this great democratic environment called the internet that, or streaming or whatever, where it's scot-free, really. You might need some sort of platform, some sort of infrastructure, but it's a wide open. It's like the Wild West out here. And whoever gets there first, whoever unlocks, opens up those floodgates, it's going to flood. And I think the rising tide will lift all of the boats. It's already kind of the way that we used to watch television, when 20 million people, 20 million households were watching, Dynasty or something. That doesn't happen anymore. The numbers that 5 years ago would have been considered, very strong demo numbers on television, like a 6.2, or that was relatively small compared to what it used to be when people were getting 18 shares and all of this. Now people are lucky to get a 2 share, really, 1.5. Some of it has gone fractional, but it still exists, and these things are still hot. And in fact, more and more such shows are being created on all kinds of new platforms. So the platforms are going to continue to expand, and they're going to need something to put on them. And, unless everything defies logic, taste, decency, Conrad will find its audience and it'll find its platform. There's too much stuff out here.
Yeah, I think you said something that's really key here, is staying in the game. It's just important to just keep right, no matter what, just don't give up, stay in the game, keep the momentum. And that's
With the testament to
I use that in business as well. You got to stay in the game.
The answer is yes. Yes may come in different forms, which is, an answer from God, higher deity, may not be what you really wanted, but it's what you really need. Conrad, I think, will get just that. And I think the pandemic is turning over some stones that we didn't know existed. So, or are becoming more down our alley of, glad we can finally utilize it now. So
no, it's been pretty cool, the conversations we've been able to have and the people we've talked to and the friends we've connected with. So thank you. Well, Harry,
thank you, Harry. Oh my gosh, love to you.
Thank you.
We love you, Harry.
Love you too. I do.
Tell your beautiful wife we said hello.
I will tell her.
Yes, we love her. And we'll have to see you
right.
soon. We'll be visiting New York soon, we hope.
Yes, me too. I hope so too.
All right.
Good
Great talking to you all.
Thanks much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.